Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
Is SmackDown shooting on WWE booking? I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Welcome to the WrestleRamble review of SmackDown, where there are a few jokes in last night's episode that initially just seemed to be kayfabe jokes, but then there's one joke that actively made fun of something we've all been mocking the last couple of weeks, and it's WWE's booking of matches. So, it started off with Charlotte and Becky Lynch. They sort of had a tense falling out. Well, not a falling out or anything, but it's been alluded to.
Yes, a tense meeting where essentially Charlotte walked up to Becky and they sort of talked over each other because the first one wanted to say that, they make the first move, but then, nope, you talk, and Charlotte was saying, hey, look, I didn't want to steal your spotlight. But Paige gave me the match. I'm a competitive person. Obviously, I wanted to win. And Becky was like, look, I want to be happy for you, but got to be honest, I'm, gutted that it's not me in a one-on-one match. Further planting those seeds for the heel turn that I'm almost certain is happening. And I've said it before, and I was saying it to our editor just before we press record there. If this is a swerve and Charlotte is turning heel, that's proper rubbish storytelling.
Yeah. This is from when Charlotte beat Carmella last week to be also added to the Becky Lynch Carmella match.
Yes, which we'll come on to because that's the next joke that they made. But they then went on to say, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, they Becky's like, yeah, we're all fine. Like, we've got a match up next. It's against the IIconics. I mean, we're not Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Which is weird because I didn't see it as like a shooting on WWE booking until you mentioned it. I thought it was just because we are, as fans, supposed to know that the four of them are friends, and they're just sort of making some jokes about their friends.
Well, that's why this one's on the wire.
I see.
So this one, this makes sense in a kayfabe world, but if the stars of SmackDown watch Raw, which
you'd imagine they do.
Yeah, you'd think they do, at a jaunty angle. And when we say shoots, by the way, this is obviously work shoot, but it is like SmackDown making fun of these concepts. But yes, this example fits within the characters and the backstage sort of world in WWE that the four horsewomen of Charlotte, Becky, and actually that's another interesting point. They don't really allude to them all being a group together.
No.
And now we've got the Evolution pay-per-view coming up. There's rumours of the four horsewomen of UFC versus WWE being back on, a match that was scrapped last year.
I wonder if they'll do that at Evolution, or they'll do a variation of it, because I've made my prediction. I think that's where Rousey is winning the belt. So that takes Rousey out of that match, and whether you then just do it as, say, Bayley, Becky, and Banks versus... Oh, no, actually didn't you? Because then you've got Shayna Baszler's going to be women's champion in theory as well. So that takes her out of the match. So maybe you just do it as a tag match of Bayley and Banks versus Marina Shafir and Desmond Duke.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, that's like Sasha and Bayley has been what most people are calling the worst storyline of WWE, not just of this year, but in quite a long time. Just in its stop-start nature, it went on forever. It seems to have come good now because they're actually a pretty
solid tag team. Got matching gear and everything.
But do not forget that to get here, we had at least 6 months of awful storytelling.
A lot more than that.
And then, years of rubbish context beforehand. Anyway, that's just like a little joke from Becky and Charlotte. And they both joked and they laughed and they drank their tea.
Tea Generation X.
But then this is the way more interesting one for me.
But again, what I love about this, it also works within the context of a character.
Yeah. Well, the character is another thing I want to talk about here. So this is Shinsuke Nakamura is doing an interview backstage with Renee Young. He's talking about the United States. I can't remember what he was talking about.
His match with Jeff Hardy, because they've confirmed that it's a one-on-one match. It's Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship at SummerSlam.
Sorry, Randy.
Well, Randy might get added in next week.
Yes, possibly.
He's still stirring that pot. Randy's got to get on the card somehow.
Yeah, and R-Truth walks in with Ty Dillinger trying to hold him back. They've become quite a nice odd couple pairing backstage in WWE. Like when you need two guys to lose to Samoa Joe. They're just there for you.
There you guys.
And R-Truth walks in and is like, I want a US title match. And I'm going to get it by beating Carmella.
Wait, is it his words were? I can need to find where it is now.
It was so funny The delivery was perfect.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to do what everyone else does around here. I'm going to beat Carmella, and that's how I'll get the match.
Yes.
So really, it's such genuinely a very funny line of dialogue.
Very funny line of dialogue. Very funny delivery. Like, he couldn't have delivered that better.
So perfect.
And this is after a couple of weeks of Becky beating Carmella to get the SummerSlam title match. Charlotte doing the same thing. And then there were reports yesterday, still might happen, that Asuka, where's she been? Like, she also might beat Carmella to get added, to make it a four-way.
Mm-hmm.
And off the back of those reports online, you get this line, which I think is one of those perfect lines where it works for the crowd who are just watching week-to-week telly, and it really works for fans who obsess over stuff like this, like us as well.
Yeah.
Because it hits all those levels. Now, that's not a joke about, it doesn't so much work in character or continuity. This is a joke about how WWE has been booking that feud.
Yeah, but it also works because R-Truth doesn't really know what's going on. That's why I say you've got that out with Truth doing this joke, because he is a man who just assumes that he knows what is the rules of the land, and he doesn't. Because then Ty Dillon just says, like, one of you can't face this, and I can't remember his words, but he essentially pointed to Renee Young and said, well, I can't fight Renee Young, she's a girl.
Yeah.
But obviously he wants to fight Carmella, who is also a girl.
That's how you get the title shots around here.
Exactly, you got to beat Carmella to get him.
And that's something like, people have been making fun of online as well, that Carmella looks like a weak champion, everyone has to beat her to get another title shot.
Character makes no sense.
And this is where, allow me to fantasy book for a second.
Please do.
R-Truth, is he actually the Deadpool of WWE? Does he know that he is in a predetermined wrestling show?
I mean, it's an interesting concept.
And that knowledge of self-awareness has driven him insane.
Whether that could work or not is a very different matter, because that's quite a line you have to toe. That'd be very difficult to pull off.
You get into WCW Vince Russo
pretty
booking,
much, yeah. That's where you start to I know the finish of tonight. I'm not jobbing out to you, and you move into those territories there. But if it's played up for yucks, then possibly it could work.
This is not an overt thing that has to be shown on TV, but I think you can add in enough things just for fans like us, which WWE don't really seem to care about, actually, so they probably won't do this, where it looks like R-Truth is a self-aware wrestling character.
Which I quite like. Yeah, that's quite funny.
Quite good, I think. Anyway, that's just some fun stuff. Let's get on with the rest of the show. I'm sure Luke loved it.
It's a SmackDown review, Maggle. I love it. We got us a flying Uso.
Did you love it, to steal a Pachitiism?
I thought it was fine. I gave it a high smack bang in the middle. That's 3.5 That's 3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Like that, I thought it was.
That's above fine.
Yeah, that's about it is. Yeah, I'm fine as Mike. It's a good show. I enjoyed the show. It's just for me, whereas last week's was far too promo heavy, and there was pretty much no wrestling whatsoever. This one balanced the promos and matches so much better, but it didn't have that killer angle that made you want to see SummerSlam. It just had one excellent match and that R-Truth joke, and then everything else was just sort of there.
See, I disagree. I think everything else was there being very good. And also further in everything, you're 2 weeks out from SummerSlam. You don't really need that. There are a few storylines here that could have done with it. And that would have made it maybe even a smack. Damn. That's the top one, right?
It is, yeah.
I thought this was smacktastic. But if you say you were a high smack bang in the middle, we've given our stuff away right at the start. Those are very close. Anyway, we started off the episode with Randy Orton cutting a killer promo.
Well, it was, and again, this is where I'm going to sound like I'm a negative Nancy here. This was a good promo, but it was the same promo he did 2 weeks ago, and that's where some of my issues lie with this show, is that last week you had that absolutely awesome angle with Randy Orton just destroying Jeff Hardy. 2 weeks previous,
wiping off the face paint.
2 weeks previous to that, you had him do that another awesome beatdown. And then he came out and he explained his actions, then he beat him down again, and then he just sort of explained his actions again. And it's the same content we've already heard, which is, this is why I'm beating up Jeff Hardy. This is why I'm doing this. I'm this, I'm that, you don't respect me. And then he just walked out, and I was like, cool, so that led to nothing then. It was a pointless segment. If this segment wasn't on the show, it wouldn't have affected A, the feud, or B, the show overall. So it was an absolutely pointless segment.
Well, it wasn't pointless, but I would say it was probably surplus.
So, tomato, tomato.
Well, no, I think they're different things, because if it's pointless, they didn't. It did succeed in its point in getting over Randy Orton as a heel.
But we got that last week.
We got that last week,
and
yeah.
the week previous, and the week previous to that. So it's not like, oh, now I definitely know he's a heel.
But the thing that I didn't like about the promo, although I did love it, it's great to see Orton caring about a character again.
Great promo.
Great delivery of a promo.
Yes.
Is that it does seem he's going in the character direction of, I'm just going to beat up all your favourites. And I was hoping he would flip the old legend killer character on its head and go after all the young up-and-comers. But he's not. He's definitely going after Jeff Hardy.
He's
definitely going after everyone at the top. So that's a shame for me, because there's so much potential in that character there.
Yeah, I think the character that you and I sort of like fantasy booked in our head with this sort of like with this paranoid, delusional man who was afraid that someone was going to take his spot, and he was going to try and sort of squash all those people that might try and be the next pretender to the throne. And but here it's mostly just like, I really just don't like Jeff Hardy, and I don't like Jeff Hardy because you lot like him.
Yeah.
I won the Royal Rumble, and I've won Survivor Series, and I've main evented WrestleMania, and I don't get no respect round here.
Yeah, and it's that sort of lazy stuff of, oh, the crowd, you don't respect me, and it's like, well, man, you've just been getting cheered for like 4 years. People love you. It rings a bit hollow.
I do like him as the three most devastating letters in this company as RK, and he won't finish it off because to finish it off would be a babyface thing to do. So he just throws the mic. I like that touch. I think it's really nice.
Just as an aside, to finish off that Randy Orton young up-and-comer killer character, at the end it could all be revealed that he's just doing it because he wants to be defeated. He wants to create the next star. Oh, man. That would be a good character. Okay. Then we got the Charlotte and Becky Lynch bit backstage, and we got that really funny, we're not Sasha and Bailey line from Becky. Mm-hmm. Again, great delivery, because Becky is a great actor.
Yep. And she should make a great heel in theory. And it's funny because I was going through a lot of the photos, getting them ready for the SmackDown review, and it almost seemed like every time I froze or I stopped the recording to screen cap something, or I was getting a photo off of WWE.com, there's always Becky in the background that is pulling a face that's just like, you mother effer, you stole my spot, and I'm so going to get you back for this at SummerSlam.
Oh, she's a grumpy Becky.
She's a grumpy Becky. She's not happy.
Becky.
Which probably means that Charlotte is the one that's turning heel, because it'll make no sense.
So they have that little bit of tension backstage, but it's all good. Mm-hmm. We're going to tag together. Yeah. Carmella comes down for this tag match. And then the IIconics, Charlotte and Becky's opponents come out. And they cut a really good promo.
I love the IIconics. The crowd kind of boring at them, but I really, really like the IIconics. And I think their shtick really works. But I just think that they haven't been given a win, so no one takes them seriously now. So when they do come out cutting their promos, everyone will just chant boring at them. So I think, it's almost, it was bound to happen.
I thought that boring heat was good heel heat.
Oh, no,
I don't think it was go away. I think it was, oh, no, you just said something bad about Orlando.
No, I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was more like, I don't want to hear this.
Oh, I thought it was the good kind of heel heat. I thought that, because usually these IIconics promos, even though it's good content and it's great delivery, often falls flat because of the crowd. But the crowd reacting in the way they did here, I thought, made it feel like a better segment.
But to maybe not so much back up the point that I was making, or to argue against that, the crowd then weren't really booing them during the match, so that the heats aren't really connected, I don't think.
Yeah, but that's because it's a match. The crowds don't care about matches unless it's rest holds.
Yeah.
So
which is what they got here, more or less, because this match started and then there was an ad break and it came back to Becky getting the hot tags. We didn't even get the rest hold spot. We just got the hot tag. And then they sort of ran wild. But what I loved the finish to this. The finish, which is that Becky locked in the disarmer and Billie Kay broke that up. And then the first thing that Charlotte did was she tagged in, which is a smart play if you're a tag team. She tagged in, locked in the figure eight, and she got the win. It's more fuel for that Becky fire of just being like, I could have had the win there, but Charlotte tagged me out and she got the win.
Yeah.
It's nice, subtle stuff in there, and you could see it in her face when she was celebrating the win, and when she did the promo afterwards with the backstage segment with Charlotte afterwards. I think it's just really, really good stuff from Lynch.
Yeah, and she sold the stuff in the IIconics promo really well as well, it was like a word association game. Orlando, rubbish. Charlotte, overrated. And then they say Becky, and like, oh, we can't see you. You're in Charlotte's shadow. And Becky was like, she sold it in a way where she's conveying anger with the IIconics, but somehow also side angering.
I know,
to
right?
Charlotte. It's great.
It's really good stuff.
To hit all those notes.
I think if Becky does turn heel at SummerSlam, it will be a really, really nice and well told heel turn. And she'll have a reason to have done it. She'll be justified in her heel turn, and it will make for a much more interesting character coming out the back of it.
Yeah, it's.
I wouldn't have done it because I think Becky is an incredible babyface. But if you are going to turn someone heel, at least make it worthwhile. At least make it a good thing. Someone actually sent me a tweet before we came in here, pitching their idea for a Carmella face turn off the back of this, sort of coming out of all these sorts of things. And I suddenly thought to myself, I couldn't think of anything worse than a Carmella babyface turn.
She moonwalks.
I suppose she does. But my first thought was like, oh, do you remember when The Miz was a babyface? When he was like Ric Flair's protege and he was winning matches with the Figure Four, and they were WWE genuinely thought people would get behind The Miz as a babyface. Nope, no, they did not. He was heel shortly thereafter.
Sometimes people are just suited for one type of character for the rest of their lives, heel or babyface.
Absolutely.
And
that's not a bad thing.
One more thing on the Charlotte tag-in for the finish here. She hits a moonsault.
Onto their arms.
So the IIconics are holding arms between each other. Charlotte hits her moonsault.
And the force of it...
that sends all of them over, but she only landed on their arms between them.
I would say it was not the worst spot in this match, nor was it the worst spot in the two women's matches that we got. I thought that Flair's, when twice she's done this now, where she does like a little leap over to the outside. But either she is not getting the distance, which it really does look like she isn't, because she almost lands on the apron, she's leaping that short of a distance, or everyone is just wildly out of position when she does it. Because she did it again, she did it last week, and essentially just landed on the mat because Carmella was, a foot away. And she did it again, and the IIconics had to sprint to the ring in order to catch her. I'd really suggest not doing that spot anymore.
Yeah.
Springboard at the outside. Do your moonsaults to the outside. That's where Charlotte shines.
And Charlotte and Becky pose staring down Carmella on commentary. Triple threat. Then we got a New Day promo.
This is funny. He's doing a Richard Pryor impersonation of a white guy. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Kofi was doing that bit, taking over from Renee. But this was one of those charming taking over from Renee ones, rather than the just Thanos away bit.
Well, they handed the microphone back to her because she's got a job to do.
And then Renee's like, "Oh, you guys," showing some character.
Yeah.
How dare she? Then we got a clip of Miz from earlier today in his little Mr. and Mrs. set.
Mr. and Mrs. set?
Yeah, accepting Bryan's challenge for SummerSlam. And I kind of had to blink and replay this segment because I couldn't believe that they undersold this major plot point in the feud about Miz finally giving Bryan this match. What the hell, WWE? This was like the major source of intrigue from last week. Bryan challenging for the match and Miz saying, "No, you're beneath me." And then you pay this off with a WWE.com exclusive nonsense thing that you film from earlier in the day just for the idea of a cheap run-in spot at the end, which was cute, but really... a lot left on the table here. This was very disappointing.
Well, this is again back to that point I was making about why a lot of SmackDown I just thought was just more or less there. Like the Miz interview that he did with Byron Saxton was essentially the exact same interview they did last week. Only Byron was in the ring and not Daniel Bryan, and then Bryan did the attack afterwards. But it wasn't like that attack was like, well, that's a nice new wrinkle to this. It didn't really feel like much of anything. And yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think that Miz kind of almost forcing Bryan forcing Miz into accepting the match, maybe putting him into the yes lock until he screams that he wants to give him the match, something like that. But Miz just going like, yeah, all right then.
Yeah,
but
I think Bryan should have put the baby in the Miz, the baby in the yes lock. Yeah,
I just think he should have done something because he laid down the challenge last week, and then this week he just went, cool, let's have the match.
Well, remember last week we were kind of fantasy booking again. The directions you could go in here. The only way that Miz will accept this match is if Bryan's career is on the line.
Yeah.
And with the real life backstage story stuff of Bryan's contract coming up on September 1st, which Miz alluded to in the promo from last week, there's so much stuff there, and you make it believable. You kind of make it like a CM Punk thing, where a lot of a big portion of the fans are actually going, wait a second, is that real? And that's like the sweet spot for wrestling for me. But you just drop all of that and just make it a normal match. And I'm not saying it shouldn't just be a normal match, because Miz and Bryan is this thing that's been built up for years and really has quite a special blood feud element to it. But week after week, WWE are making me want to see it less. This is one of those open goal scenarios where you just have to tap it in. And they keep hitting the post, or a baby that just walks. Think of the ridiculous angles we've had for this feud that writes itself. And you have tried to go in there and write it over the top of the good stuff that was already in there. This feud, actually, is really being hindered by Miz and Mrs.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but that was all he wanted to talk about in the thing. He wants to talk about how it's getting better ratings than Total Birds, which I bloody called a couple of weeks ago that he would do. As soon as it did really won the ratings, I was like, I cannot wait for that to be part of the feud. And you're right, I think the Miz and Mrs. really is hampering a lot of this, because it feels like they want to promote that more than they do this match. And it's getting to the point now where I'm almost thinking, if Bryan is re-signing, we're going to get Miz and Bryan for the next 3 pay-per-views. Because it will just be like, it won't be this blood feud that culminates at the big show. It will just be any old feud that we just do for 3 straight pay-per-views, because that's what we do.
Yeah, this really felt like a one-off big-time match. You pay off at SummerSlam and they don't meet again. Bryan gets the win. They don't meet again for another 6 months. But yeah, it's not that this is a bad feud. This is still a good feud. Both guys are doing great promo work. Some of the angles are actually quite enticing. Some are absolutely ridiculous. But it's just what this could have been is so much more than what it is right now. It's really disappointing and sad, because you only get one time to pay this off properly. And it's been in the works for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years,
Agreed.
as Viper would say. Next up, we got the Charlotte and Becky backstage after winning bit, where they cheersed with the tea.
Yep, Becky said that she loves tagging with her best friend, but at SummerSlam it'll be very different.
That's another thing. Miz accepting the Bryan match was just a 45-second clip.
Yeah, well, he got a promo to do later on. He's got Miz and Mrs. to promote.
Then we got a Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles video package, which was good. Mm-hmm. And then AJ comes out, cuts a promo on Joe in the ring, said, actually, I love my family.
And then he left.
And
that, you had that awesome promo for Samoa Joe last week, and how do you follow up on that? By AJ cutting a really nothing promo and then leaving, and Joe was watching backstage. That's what I mean, man. You set something up, and you're not building up on anything throughout this show. It's just, this was just another promo that was there, and the crowd were not into this promo at all.
It was a boring promo.
It was a really boring promo, but it felt like he was appealing to all of the parents that were in the crowd, but the parents weren't responding to anything. So it came off really, really flat. And it was actually, really, really dull. The only thing I liked was the last line where he says that, you won't be walking out of SummerSlam the WWE champion. You won't be walking out at all. It was a good closing line, but the crowd were not into this whatsoever.
And then it cuts to Joe watching on a monitor backstage. Ha ha ha! Evil heel laugh.
Yeah, as I said in the SmackDown review, what this show was missing was a killer angle.
Yeah.
It was missing a killer angle that will make you want to watch SummerSlam. And you could have had that here, you could have had it with the Miz and Bryan thing, you could have had it with the Randy Orton promo at the start. But it was really, there was sort of nothing, there was just stuff that happened.
Yeah, because it had the killer match.
It had the killer match, good lord did it have the killer match.
But that's not this next one.
No.
No, that's a bit later on. So we got Lana working out backstage with an exercise band, And Rusev comes over and apologises and says, I'll come out with you for your match against Zelina Vega next.
Goody. Rematch.
Yeah, why?
Because Lana lost and she asked for the rematch. That at least makes some sort of sense. That's me putting logic onto it. They
didn't say that,
They didn't
did
say
they?
that. No, that was me projecting.
Yeah. And Lana's like, you're forgiven. And then Aiden English comes in. And I was like, yeah, that's just all... Because I want them to be together. It's like, I'm invested in all of these characters and as them as a team. And English apologises genuinely. He's another great actor.
And he just...
Like, this has been a week of great acting for WWE. Heyman, Becky Lynch, all the New Day, just how they do stuff. Yeah, great all around.
It doesn't happen a lot, but it should be praised when it does.
Miz, Bryan.
Yep.
And Rusev forgives him, and I'm like, yay! But then as they go to the match for Lana, Rusev says, hey, buddy, you might want to sit this one out.
Yeah, you want to stay backstage.
And that was like... This is a nice story now that I feel English is justified in turning heel. And, English could get a nice little heel run off of this.
Yeah, he could do.
Yeah. Then we got Zelina Vega versus Lana. It was a nothing match.
Yeah, nothing match. Slightly better than last week's, but still pretty much a nothing match. And then Almas kind of got into the ring, and that he and Rusev had a little tussle on the outside. That distracted Lana. And then is where
I thought Rusev was really good the way he went after Andrade.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, don't you go near my wife. It was good fire.
And Andrade's very good at doing like the getting into the ring distraction. He's very good. Like he gets up onto the ropes and everything. Doesn't just stand on the apron. Proper looks like he's going to get in and attack someone. And then, so they're having this tussle on the outside. Lana is climbing up onto the turnbuckle, and she's kind of like, she's got 1 foot on the second rope and 1 foot up on the top one. Aiden English runs down, and he kind of rugby tackles Andrade into Lana, who then, I think, got shot because she did this big old flip dive over the top rope, and then Vega did the double knees and got the win. And I watched the replay, I was like, in kayfabe world, how did Lana take this bump? Like, what force made her do that bump?
Yeah, it
looked hokey as hell.
The ropes work weirdly, man. Like that, like, the Irish whip, people bounce back off. Sometimes if one, because they're so taut.
Yeah.
If they get knocked, it could just, like bullets, like ricochets off bullets. No one knows where those fragments go. JFK could have just been shot once.
Could have been.
Because just the way ricochets work. No, inexact science.
Yeah.
No one knows what direction bits are going to go off into. And I can only assume that's what happened to Lana here.
It's a better excuse than what the commentary said, so I can buy into that. But
it's physics.
I made this joke in the news as well, in the review, and I'll make it here. This is less Rusev Day and more Groundhog Day. We're just sort of doing the same angle over and over again.
Snap, son.
I
That's
know,
good.
right?
Then we got that great R-Truth and Shinsuke Nakamura
so
bit.
funny. Really, genuinely. If you, we get a lot of comments in the YouTube videos that say they don't watch Raw and SmackDown, they just watch us doing the review. Seek out this segment. It'll be on their YouTube channel because it really was funny.
And the Paul Heyman interview.
Yeah.
And the Paul Heyman addendum.
Yes, yeah, I did, yeah. Actually, that's the other thing. Sorry to go back to the R-Truth promo. Nakamura then starts cutting a promo on him in Japanese. And he walks away, and everyone's like, oh, what did he say? And R-Truth's like, I can't believe he just said that. And you know that R-Truth doesn't understand what he just said, but he knew, in his weird mind, that what he said was a challenge.
No, R-Truth does know, because he knows he's in a wrestling show.
Maybe.
Yeah. He got the subtitles. He was seeing the subtitles in front of Nakamura. Then, after that segment backstage, it cuts to the commentary team. I'm not going to lie. When I see the commentary team doing, now we're going to throw to this thing. Now we're going to talk about how great Stephanie McMahon is because we've got an Evolution promo. Now we're going to spend the next 20 minutes running down the 400 matches at SummerSlam. So I turn off. And it cuts back to ringside. And Byron's taking off his headset and throwing it down. Corey's shouting at him. I'm not really listening to any of this. Like, what's happening here? I got really excited, went back to, rewatch that bit. No, it's just Byron had an interview with The Miz in the ring. Corey was annoyed that Byron got that spot. I thought we could have a two-man booth.
So Corey was annoyed that Byron got the journalistic interview that really Corey Graves should have got. But it was just, I said this in the review as well, it was such an odd little setup. because Byron is standing in the ring and he's like, my guest at this time, The Miz. And you expect The Miz to come out, but no, The Miz is up on the screen. And so Byron's interviewing him on the screen, sort of, but he doesn't really do anything. It wasn't an interview in the slightest.
Yeah.
It was such an oddly staged segment.
Yeah, why is Saxton the guy you need? And I like Saxton. It's just, didn't really need any of this. Renee Young could have done it. Renee Young would have been perfect because of the Talking Smack history with Bryan and Miz.
No one remembers that. Come on, mate.
And she could say, like, hey, this happened back then. I was there. Yeah. It's just,
Do you know what this feud needs? I'll tell you what this feud needs. It needs a video package. It needs a video package that it will hype you up and say, like, here is the history of this. Almost like running through their history week by week of just like little vignettes of just like Daniel Bryan when he was first in NXT, Daniel Bryan winning his first championship. All the little bits and pieces, times they crossed over, that Talking Smack stuff. You could run these little bits to explain to an audience why these two have this history, rather than having Miz cut the same promo week in, week out. Because this is now the third week in a row that Miz has cut this promo. And it is the same content every single time. And it's not building any interest into the feud, whereas visually that might add a little bit to it. And it's not like WWE are rubbish at making video packages. They can make they managed to make Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar look like an all-time incredible feud. They could work wonders with this, rather than just do it on SummerSlam, where you've already sort of bought the pay-per-view and are already watching it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they've done that with quite a few other feuds. They did it with AJ and Joe earlier in the show.
Which has had two angles to cut stuff from.
Yeah. So maybe they just thought we have to try and reverse engineer a feud out of this.
Yeah, got nothing to work with.
But the Miz's promo was content-wise the same as it has been for a while now, but performance-wise, it's great. It's a great promo.
Great.
And then, because this is on the set of Miz and Mrs., I mean, it's quite clearly the backstage area.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man, I know we're in a feud with them at the moment, but Ross from Cultaholic made an incredible discovery that there's a piece of artwork that is in the same... It was in the Miz segment last week, it was in Brock Lesnar's training room last week, and it was in the Paul Heyman interview this week. It's this random piece of artwork that I was actually looking out for it this week.
It's the new Pure Country, Pure Heart poster.
It's following them everywhere.
It's just like a generic sky landscape thing as well, isn't it? It's not calming at all. It's just infuriatingly banal. But Bryan attacks Miz from out of nowhere, which I quite liked.
I liked it, yeah.
And they had a brief scuffle, but Miz pushed Bryan into a vase, and the vase shattered, and Miz's security guys ushered him out.
Miz cracked him over the head with a vase.
Oh, was that how it worked?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I thought really poetic justice-wise, it should have been the Pure Country, Pure Heart poster. Just pick that up and bam, smash.
Should have been.
But what I really liked about this is the camera didn't just end on Bryan going, ow. It ended on Bryan getting up zombified and just like looking in the distance again and sort of shuffling off towards Miz's direction. And then it cuts back to Corey and Todd Phillips, and they're talking about how Bryan's obsessed now. And I thought that worked quite well as a wrinkle in this storyline, but in no way the most effective version of this feud.
Absolutely not.
Then we got the R-Truth Nakamura match. R-Truth and his entrance was so over. The guy looks phenomenal. He's got great charisma. I forgot I love R-Truth so much.
Are you now pushing for an R-Truth like push?
I don't know. Definitely make him more featured.
Yeah?
Because he can just like get the crowd with his music on side immediately. There was a spot in this match where he did his usual "What's up" thing, and everyone did it along with him. And then he looked at Nakamura and went, "Come on!" And that was really cool. It really got me into the match. Nakamura dominated as he should have, but I thought Truth looked really impressive.
Truth did look really, really good in this, but I can almost see them more going with a Truth-Ty Dillinger comedy partnership, where maybe they'll be like the C team and they'll win the belts. Maybe.
Or like a Rhino and Heath Slater pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad at all.
The third tag team like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's... I just thought, what a weird thing to have 2 weeks out from SummerSlam. and Nakamura's Hardy match. Sorry, a brief pause there, and apologies if you've heard a kind of noise throughout the entire show.
We thought there was a fly in the room. Turns out there wasn't. It was actually my chair rubbing against this
metal cabinet thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's fixed. But it also sounded like this podcast or videocast is haunted now.
By a fly.
So we had the R-Truth Nakamura match. Next up, we got Bludgeon Brothers taking on a trio of jobbers.
Loved this, mate.
This was great.
Yeah, no, really. That was the point you were going to make before we got interrupted, was the Nakamura-Hardy feud, and you just did this. But I think that's good to have a little showcase match for Nakamura to show that he's dominant before you lead up into a Jeff Hardy match. That's good because it shows that he's a winner.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And again, Bludgeon Brothers here shows that they are a completely dominant force. We haven't seen them on TV for a little while now because they've been doing the tag team title tournament, and they're not the sort of team you can have sitting out at commentary like Carmella could or Bobby Roode did.
They couldn't just brood.
No, because they bludgeon. And so they said they had them here come out, and I genuinely thought they were coming out to do commentary, and I was a little bit concerned because it was just before the tag match, which you knew was going to be the main event. But then they came out here and they beat up 3 jobbers, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, great stuff, like Rowan doing this crazy double crossbody on the outside, taking out 2 guys, and then the great spot of the Harper being scoop slammed onto a bunch of bodies.
Yeah. I would have preferred the commentary team to put over more how devastating the Bludgeon Brothers were, as opposed to just laughing at what the jobbers were dressed like. Because Corey Graves was so distracted that one of them was dressed like Taz and had a white beard. And that's all he could talk about.
I really liked the Bludgeon Brothers promo before this match.
Spooky promo, man.
In a sauna, it looked like. And it looked like they showed a bit more personality. It wasn't just, we will bludgeon, up is down. Down is up. It was
I miss those days.
It was Harper going, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
We enjoy this. And he smiled a bit. And I was like, oh, now I'm more scared.
I wonder if that again was more of that SmackDown shooting on WWE booking where he was doing his version of Charlotte. This is going to be good.
Woo! Then we got the SummerSlam match rundown, which is still going on. And finally for the main event, what a corking match. A way to round off this tag team tournament. We knew it was going to be excellent if they gave them the right amount of time, and they gave them about 30 minutes. The Bar taking on the New Day.
Man alive, we said it last week, and we've said it in previous iterations of this show. It shows you how much I've missed the Bar, because god damn, they're so good. And this is, I know a lot of people say that we need to split them up because Cesaro needs his singles run. And Sheamus. And I can totally see that. But I do love these two as a tag team. And I've missed the Bar so much. And I've missed this dynamic with the New Day. And they just had an absolutely corking match. And do you know what I really loved about this? The thing I loved the most about this match, aside from obviously all the great near falls and great action and this, that, and the other, they structured a match around ad breaks.
That's interesting.
The middle portion of this match was essentially a little mini match that ended with this big near fall, and then it was and SmackDown rolls on, and then you came back and you built to another set of near falls. So you had it worked around the structure of the ad breaks. It didn't just feel like here is 2 segments where we do rest holds and then we'll do the final stuff after the second ad break is done.
Yeah, it wasn't like the heels are on the outside, the baby faces are inside, shouting at them, cut to commercial. And I'm so thankful that it was in the main event spot as well.
Yeah, really.
Because I could have seen this as going in the middle of the show, and it does add a significant amount of weight to a feud if it does get that main event spot.
And a tournament as well.
Yeah, and it really shows that SmackDown are behind this tag team wrestling thing, which is, tag team wrestling's great, but Raw is just it's completely ignoring it now, so it's lovely to see SmackDown putting it on a pedestal again. So last week I said, I don't know what it is about the Bar. They're still Sheamus and Cesaro to me. And you were like, no, I see them as the Bar. And we said, it's weird because everything they've done, their move sets, they've got matching costumes, they've got a matching team name. They've done so much to make them work together. I don't know why I feel this way. I was talking it with Fakador, and Fakador just looked at me and said, but they've still got their old entrance music. I was like, of course.
Because you got the and then into Sheamus's music.
So if that's all they need. They need the joint entrance music. That's when they'll break up, though. The crowd was super hot for
God,
this.
weren't they just? The crowd loved New Day. Like, as soon as they came out, there were massive chants of "We want pancakes."
Yeah.
So, like, it's a testament to how good the New Day are. They were so much more over than the WWE champion.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I thought it was a great crowd all night,
Yeah.
much like Jacksonville were. Sort of got that SummerSlam fever. And so it was Florida. No, it was Orlando, which is in Florida.
As is Jacksonville.
Oh, okay, so it was all round there. That's the way to get Range cheered.
Exactly.
Just have it all from his home state. And it was almost as though Orlando have never seen a near fall before. They thought every near fall was the end of the match.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a testament to the guys in the ring making you believe those near falls. But it was so fun for me to watch this and get swept up in what was clearly not the finish. Just because the whole crowd were going crazy for it.
There was a spot during this match where Cesaro did a superplex on Big E. And because they did a long time of setting it up, I kept thinking, it was like, and Big E's going to reverse. And Big E's going to reverse. Thinking to myself, like, they're not going to do this spot though, are they? They're not going to do a big old superplex on Big E. And then they did. And I was like, good Lord, that looked so awesome. And then Sheamus dived off with a big diving knee. There was just so much good stuff throughout this. Cesaro had a wicked sharpshooter locked in for ages, and he transitioned that into
that
a
was a
crossface
great spot, yeah.
And then, like, the best bit of this match, really, which was the finish, as well it should be, Cesaro's got this crossface logged in. Big E stands up, still in the crossface, hoists him up on his shoulder, midnight hour. New Day pick up the win. They're facing the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam. I loved this. Really, really terrific match.
What worked so well about that last bit there as well was, so it was Cesaro got did the swing first, which got the crowd crazy, then into the sharpshooter, but Kofi's taken out on the outside, so he can't save Big E. And everyone's like, oh my god, Big E's going to tap. But Xavier Woods on the outside, like willing Big E to get up as much as Big E's own inner strength to stand up. And it just got having that Woods dynamic out there really got the crowd into it even more. They were already really into it. It was a really fun, great match. Yeah. And then Bludgeon Brothers are shown sort of by an exit. Not in the traditional Titantron bit or up in the rafters.
So that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was nice, and it was just like their backs watching on. The crowd didn't even seem to know they were there. They just turned away and walked off. Yeah, really, like that was a nice new way of visually presenting stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
So corking match, and now we're going to get the New Day and the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam. Because of course you are, because that's babyface versus heels. It's remarkable I bought into the Bar winning so many times here.
Well, I thought the Bar might win because it's what they haven't done before.
Yeah.
Because they've done New Day versus Bludgeon Brothers already. Like we were doing that at WrestleMania, and I just thought they might try and do something new. But I'm really glad it's the New Day. It'll be on the pre-show. But hey, man, New Day and the Usos were on the pre-show last year, and it stole the show. So there's every chance that this could do the same thing if it's given the time it needs.
Yeah, and that was a show with at least two other great matches.
The
other tag and the Fatal 4-Way.
Oh, fellow.
But that's all we've got time for today. We've already set our ratings, unless you want to do a... Because I think this is still a smacktastic show. I know we had our criticisms of feuds, but none of it was awful. It just left a lot on the table.
I just think what it was missing was a killer angle. Like, I didn't come out of this wanting to see SummerSlam. And that, like, for me, that's when I'm watching a show, I want to build towards things. I just felt that this show wasn't really building towards anything. It just felt like it was the same show as last week, but with a few more matches.
Just a really fun show.
Without any killer angles. Yeah. But it's interesting as well, because you've often said that should be your base level. Like just being a solid show should be like just your base level where every show should be. So I find it's interesting then that because even though this is a very base level and a solid, you're still giving it the 4 out of 5.
Well, it's because of that
main event.
It's because that was half an hour. That was a third of the show.
It was less than half hour. I think it was about 20-ish minutes.
Probably in live, it was half an hour if you include the ad breaks. So yeah, that was a quarter of the show then. So for me, that's what bumps it up to a smacktastic.
That's fair enough.
But that's all we've got time for today. Please click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome stuff. And this button right here, guys, it will subscribe you to the iTunes version of this podcast.
It's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcast, we've been told.
Oh, wow. Branding.
Yeah, Apple Podcast.
And that has exclusive intros and outros with your letters, your meeting of wrestlers. There's loads of fun segments on there. I've been Ollie Davis, this has been Luke Owen, and that was Rambling.